Welcome to Becoming PowHERhouse, where we discuss the tough lessons I've learned while taking my two companies from negative revenue to over 7 figures. We'll talk about the raw and vulnerable truths about being boss, as well as tips and strategies you can implement immediately for better business results. I'm your host, Nicole Overcamp, the founder and CEO of Wilcox Financial Group and PowHERhouse Coaching. You can see links and other resources in our notes. Don't forget to head over to PowHERhouseMoney.com to grab your free PowHER bundle for business and subscribe to our newsletter. Now, let's dive in to today's episode. Okay, my powerhouses. So this is a fun interview today. First, one of our clients. So super excited to talk with her, have her share everything that she has accomplished so far in growing and building her business, as well as the value she offers in her business. So if you are someone who has been struggling with hormone imbalances or a underactive thyroid, maybe Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, perhaps you're someone dealing with fatigue, weight gain, PCOS, I don't know, all of the above. I know for sure that is me. She is your gal. And it is not only remarkable how she has perfected her technique and the value she is able to offer to her clients. She is a no bullshit expert. This is not one of those health coaching people of the Wild West out there on the internet, but she is the real deal. So not only are you going to learn in this episode how she grew her business and went from working corporate to a job that was really a little bit soul sucking to exploding her company and her business and the number of women she's able to serve. You also are able to learn some things that you need to know if you are someone struggling from those types of symptoms, and some tools and strategies of where you can go to get help. So Priscilla Swahn, she is the CEO and founder of Keto Girl Nutritionist. She's a registered dietitian with a master's of science in clinical nutrition, and she helps women with hormone imbalances, thyroid conditions, as I had mentioned, PCOS, and help them break the cycle of fatigue, weight gain, and frustration. Inside her membership and VIP coaching programs, she has helped thousands of women lose weight sustainably, which is where the gold is, regain their energy, and even reduce or eliminate their need to take medication. Oh, love that. So please tune in and enjoy my chat with Priscilla. So, Priscilla, I am super stoked. We are finally having this podcast interview. I think we've been trying to schedule it now for maybe 6 months. And the cool thing about you is twofold. Number one, I definitely want to talk about your journey and how you have completely taken what you thought was going to be your career and morphed it into something that is fulfilling, incredible, and you're serving hundreds of thousands of women every single year, and you were able to successfully go from working in a hospital to private practice, and now this incredible business that you have grown to, which I'll allow you to explain. But the reason I think your story is so unique is a lot of women that I talk to and even work with, they think about doing what you did, but most of them don't ever pull the trigger, right? Yeah. And so I think that in itself is really powerful, and I'd love to hear that story. And then second, for our listeners, which I think is such an incredible treat, is the thing that you do. The thing that you do is something that so many women struggle with. And I think we would be doing everyone a disservice if you didn't talk about that specifically and how you help women who are feeling exhausted and struggling with thyroid, hormones, PCOS, like all of these topics that I think we just don't talk about enough, like the actual real stuff, right? And it's starting to turn a corner, but not really. And so with that said, I am stoked and welcome.
Thank you. Such a great introduction. I love it. And I feel like I'm to blame for not having this sooner because I followed your instructions on, hey, you structure your week you want. So I always take off Fridays, but I wanted to make sure we got this one in. So where would you like me to begin?
So why don't you actually, if you can, and first of all, I appreciate you bending a boundary. I am so grateful because it's ironic. I do enforce that. And of course, Fridays are the only days that I record podcasts. So appreciate you. But why don't you just start with your journey? Like why? Why did you start Keto Girl and how did that look
Mm,
for you? And really being able to take that leap of faith in yourself, knowing that like
mm.
beyond a reasonable doubt, you're leaving stability to go into the great unknown. And, and here you are now.
Totally. Yeah. So a lot of women that come to me, they're just exhausted, beside themselves, feeling crazy when they're going to the doctor, feeling gaslit, told they're normal when they know I am not normal. I've tried all the things. And I really empathize with this because it takes me back to when I was 12 years old and sitting in my heart doctor's office in a cold, sterile room with my mom. And this doctor who is overweight, has a smoker's breath, looks at me and he sees that I'm about 30 pounds overweight, going through puberty. And he said, "You can never get fat or you'll die." And I was just like in total disbelief, a little frozen there. And I was, first of all, total ignorance to being overweight. I was just a hungry kid
I mean, you're 12.
growing. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so it was the first time in my life that this was brought to my attention. But the doctor just went on with his day. He didn't say, "Hey, maybe eat a little healthier." His whole approach was just very cold, sterile, and he gaslit me essentially and made me
Mhm.
feel really bad about myself. And I didn't know better to tell my mom, "Hey, I need a new doctor," because this was the best doctor, so to
Right.
say, for my heart condition. And so we stuck with it. But this led to years of me in my teens of just trying different diets, dieting way before I should have even been dieting, eating less. And that sure helped me lose weight,
Right.
but it left me with my hormones wreaking havoc. I was depressed. I had anxiety. I wasn't hanging out with my friends because I didn't have the energy. And so I wasn't doing what I loved. And
Mhm.
so this caused me to want to figure it out, hack it, if you would. Like, how can I figure out how to eat healthy while living your best life at the same time? So that led me into going to college, getting my master's as a dietitian, working in the hospital. But I was presented with a very similar feeling like, these doctors, they're just so cold and sterile. And they looked to me just to give a generic diet to all
Mhm.
these ladies that isn't going to really get to the root. And
Yeah.
so that's what really lit that fire was like, okay, these women deserve better.
Mhm.
We can really provide the service that they're truly looking for. So I started dipping my toes into entrepreneurship back in 2019. I was still working full time. I was also an adjunct professor. I was doing all the things. And I also started to get some clients on the side that I would work with at 5 and 6 and 7 o'clock in the evening when I was home. And it was during this time that I got to finesse my approach. I was getting more and more women that had unique hormone conditions and thyroid conditions. And I learned, like, hey, you can't just eat less, it's not going to work. And so this really helped me just become a researcher. And
Mhm.
it was really cool when I finally tweaked it enough where my clients were going back to the doctor. And not only had they lost the weight, they were full, they felt confident, were actually thriving and going out with their girlfriends and being present with their family. The doctor started seeing their labs improve. And they started to reduce their thyroid medication and eventually take them off, which in the world of hormones and thyroid is really rare. Most doctors say once you're on thyroid meds, you're on it for life. And that just was that little nudge I needed to be like, we got something here. This is going to be my niche. This is what my big why is, to give these women the service they really need.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. And that's part of what I love about your business too, is that like you have continued to stay true to your mission and your niche, which is hyper targeted. But it and of course, like everybody listening to this, at least if this is not your first episode, like I am a complete fanatic about trying to be as holistic as possible and not being on medications and like digging in and asking the questions and pushing back. And I think and this is becoming a normal conversation, especially with like my
Mhm.
friends, and like we're all in that period of like perimenopause and we all feel like lunatics, and like and most of us do have thyroid conditions, and it's like, man, like we do feel like crazy people. And when we talk to the doctors, they number one, they have no solution, but more importantly, they don't even understand nutrition, right?
No.
And then we feel like we're in this space of like, okay, well now, like, where do we go now? What?
Mhm.
And then you really do provide that perfect solution, I think. And I say all the time, it's like, man, if it's sad in our current medical system here in the United States, and
Yeah.
how like twisted and upside down it is, and no offense to anybody who disagrees. But I think what is important to recognize is that if you want the experts, you're private paying. If you want the best of the best, you're private paying in a lot of these areas, be
Yeah.
it nutrition and dealing with even like functional medicine or PT, like, and that has been my experience for the last decade,
Mhm.
And so as you continue to hone in and grow your niche, I think part of what really helped you grow fast is to not deviate.
Mhm.
And when you got scared, and when I say you got scared, and I think you'll be okay with me saying this,
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
you would have moments where you're like, oh my gosh, business is slow. Like I'm not,
Yeah.
revenue is down. I'm not getting as many new clients. You didn't say, I'm going to now start talking to patients who don't have these conditions,
Mhm.
because you wanted to widen your funnel and have that scarcity mindset of needing to go in different directions. It's like, no, no, like how can I continue to double down on the very thing that I'm in,
Mhm.
but just do it better in terms of my communication? And I think that's important for people to hear when you're going through inflection points, because how many times do we all have that panic moment? And it's
Yep.
easy to want to pull and like grasp at outside straws. But I
Mhm.
think your ability to stay true to your mission and who you are has, albeit had some uncomfortable moments. What happened every time that you complained about things being slow and you kept your focus, right? Like what
Yep.
happened the next month?
Yep, it was consistent, which is exactly what I tell my clients when it's
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
okay, you're at a weight plateau. No, your body is
Yeah.
just figuring it out. Just keep being
Yeah.
consistent. And so can totally relate to that.
Yeah, exactly. The next thing is always better. It's like the discipline in it, and
Yeah.
so and for you, like what would you say and going through also your period where you went from working full time and starting the side hustle,
Mhm.
which in truth is how I recommend it, because you are not quitting your job with no plan and not
Mhm.
succeeding in business due to finances. That's the worst thing that you can do. So like truly for many people starting out, like that's the way to go, right? And then you finally did take that leap and quit and did this full time. And in your period of doing it full time, like if you can kind of talk about the inflection points of realizing you don't have a scalable business, and
Mhm.
I have to do something to change if I'm going to continue to do this, but I
Yep.
still want to provide value,
Mhm.
right? And how you went through some of those shifts and challenges, because I think this is another for service based businesses, especially, and service based businesses where we have the belief, well, it has to be
Mhm.
one on one, it has to be small group to get the value, right? That's the change in
Mhm.
thought process. I can't possibly create something scalable, when in truth, we broke that thought. But talk about that a little bit, because I think it's
Yeah.
super important, and it took a huge mindset shift in terms
Mhm.
of how you thought about your value, number one, in what you're able to offer, but then also what you've built.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the biggest thing I came to. And I'm just like, I feel kind of like I'm stuck. Like, I'm happy with what I'm making, but it's just the same amount every year. So, how can I surpass that and really scale? Because at that point, I was doing like group plus VIP one-to-one
Mhm.
style coaching, small groups, and I was charging a high ticket price, $4,000 for this. And I was like, okay, that's how I can scale, just keep getting more high paying clients, which yes, isn't bad when you start your business and convert to that. But then you brought along the novel idea of a membership. And I had this mindset that if I did a membership, I didn't have the numbers to scale it at the time. My email list and my Instagram growth at the time were a moderate size, like 30,000 Instagram followers, 9,000 on my email list. But still, to my mind, I'm like, it's not going to be there in the numbers, all this extra work. And so we just said, hey, let's just do both. Start with the membership, still have your VIP clients coming in. We can just leave this as like, hey, a little extra money on the side from the membership. So I was like, okay, that made me feel better. I can do that. You know, a little extra chump change never hurts
Mhm.
anybody. Because coming from you being an investor in financial, you know, I saw your side like, hey, it's an investment, it will scale. So I trusted the process and I built out the framework to be a year long, had meal plans, coaching calls, the course, all that good stuff in a community. And I think literally I just launched it just over a year ago in February.
It's so
And
funny coming up to that.
I know. And I think literally it was, we got a couple, like 100. It took like 2 months to get our first 100
Yeah.
members in there. So I was like, oh, it's slowly gonna get there. Maybe I'll have 200 members in there. And then literally it was like, I don't know, calling out to the universe saying, hey, bring me more members. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
Literally my Instagram growth skyrocketed for a good consistent 4 to 5 months. And I went from 30,000 followers to over 600,000 followers. And I'm not going to
Mhm.
say this is everyone's case, but I think what happened is creating the space for a membership and saying, I'm ready for more, it naturally, I believe, impacted the marketing side and saying, hey, there's a place for everyone, not just high paying ticket individuals. And I think that came through in my marketing as well. And
Mhm.
so I have like 600 members right now, which I'm very happy with. And we're still working and fine tuning and we're bringing them in, but it's just the craziness of how we started with it and where it's now. And I make so much more money.
Uh-huh.
$40,000 a month just from the membership.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how that flipped. And now I take VIP clients on a select
Mhm.
basis.
Yeah. So, and I think the significance in all of this is that you are earning a buttload more and you're
Yep.
not working more.
Yes.
So that is the other thing is like when
Mhm.
you're thinking scal, it is expect more, do less, right?
Yeah.
Like that is because you can't burn yourself out and where you were headed before was headed to
Hmm.
that point. And what is important for everyone to know is that you just made that sound really easy. Um, and you made it look easy too in working with you, but the reason you did it and you were so successful is that you never once held back. You never once questioned yourself. You never once were like apprehensive, or even if you were like, Nicole, I don't know about that, you did it anyway, right? Like you
True.
are like one of my biggest action takers. Like as soon as we had a coaching call, you literally implemented that day, next day, done. And then you were consistent about it. And that is for anything that you have done with any course that you have taken or invested in, the coaching that we did together. And like, you even continued to do it and then tweaked the minor details and didn't give up even when you didn't see results right away. And how easy is it to say like, ugh, this isn't working, I'm gonna stop. But like and you have that gift to just keep doing it anyways and execute. And in this process too, in your ability to work less, you grew your team, right? And
Yeah.
went through a lot of those transitions. So what was like the hardest thing for you in again converting your mind
Yeah.
to, okay, I can build a business now. I'm not just like a
Mhm.
freelancer, right? But talk about the shift in being able to trust someone else with your coaching clients and another coach, just
Mhm.
not you, because that's scary. And I even, remember for me, like 15 years ago when I like brought on maybe 13, I can't remember. I'm old, but when I started to bring on Sarah and then other advisors, it's like, nobody can do it as good as me. I don't want to like let it go. And but no one's ever going to do it like you, right? No one's ever going to do
Mhm.
it like me, but 80% is good enough and nobody else knows the difference.
Mhm.
And so talk about that a little bit and what had to shift for you.
So yeah, that was a huge mindset thing, especially going from 2019 to 2024, me being the coach. I never had
Mhm.
anyone outside do any coaching. And you hear those horror stories where someone brought someone on and then they lost half their clients because of that poor employee. So that's in the back of my mind, like, what I do is so unique. No one else could possibly understand my technique. And that's why I have all my success. So that's what I thought all those years. And then also, it's scary bringing someone on your team because at least my thought was, if I hire them, I'm supporting them. And what if I don't make it next month and then I
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
fire
That what
them?
if?
Yeah, and of course, it's always those
Mhm.
what ifs, those fears
Yeah.
that haven't even happened. And so you're just like, hey, you don't have to hire them full time. You don't even have to hire 20 hours a week. Like, and so I was tips my toes and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 5 hours a week with my co-coach. And so you helped me with getting the job description and going out there and knowing how to interview. You walked me through all of that to help build that confidence. And literally, I still have my dietitian co-coach to this day, over a year. Yay. And she's fabulous. I literally, it was, baby steps getting there
Mhm.
and us having the trust and know factor, but I trust her now to do one-to-ones with clients, lead big group coaching calls, answer all the community questions because she knows my method. She's followed me
Mhm.
around and sees how I do it. And she has a can-do mindset. And that's what we really looked for, is not that she knew my method, but that she had what it took to know it. And she had that hard
Yeah.
work ethic, which I absolutely loved. And then I brought on my virtual assistant who had been contracting with me for 4 years and finally hired her as my office manager. And I love it because she's
Mhm.
taken on more responsibility, the
Yeah.
membership, the community, just more client success. So ultimately, my integrator that can really bring the team all together when I have contractors or other projects and coaches. And it just gives me like a peace of mind. So when
Mhm.
I went on vacation this year, literally the team didn't even bother me for 2 weeks. Like,
That
this was
is
the
the
first time.
dream. Yes.
And I was like, I hope everything's okay. I'm not seeing anything in my Slack channel and the community looks good. So all I did was post it to social media and that was it. I checked my email once a day, like you suggested. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay. And that just gave me the most freedom, just knowing like my company can run without me. I have
Mhm.
the people in the right places that are
Yes.
capable. And that was so
Mhm.
freeing.
That is the dream.
Yes.
I love hearing that. And for anyone who too like isn't familiar with the term integrator, and it's built off of, there's a lot of different coaching entrepreneurial systems or EOS, but truly like if you are someone like myself or Priscilla, where you're really the visionary, you're the creative, you are the one who has the excitement behind the brand and the ideas and the genius and the skill set, your integrator is the one who actually gets shit done.
Mhm.
So, like, think of it as a COO or an operations person where it allows you to truly stay in your zone of genius and thrive. So, your energy isn't being drained with all of the details of implementation, because
Mhm.
it is a slog. And it's also a waste of your energy and your time and your return on your time, right?
Mhm.
And I think you've been able to see now too, is like, yes, it was an investment, but you're earning more
Mhm.
and you can pay people to do those things.
Yeah.
And now to take a vacation, like a real vacation,
Yeah.
and actually step away is like, that's the big goal. Like, and it's
Mhm.
such a beautiful thing to see. And the best part is like, no one's suffering. Your membership is still getting extreme value.
Mhm.
They're getting everything that you promised, and that is the ability to be an entrepreneur, right? It's
Yeah.
working yourself out of a job.
Yeah.
And it sounds scary, but that's why you started company,
It is.
and in balancing all of that, in integrating all of that. And you've really been such, I would say, a transformational and inspirational leader to your team too, in teaching them those things and getting them excited to change
Mhm.
lives in your program too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And it's just so exciting how that's what happened for me last year was that scaling yes, I saw it in the
Mhm.
numbers, but it was
Yeah.
more so in the inside part of my company and our offers and in the team and how that we always think scaling is just numbers, but it's
Mhm.
also more freedom and how you give that
Exactly.
to yourself.
Yeah. More time and choices and then honing in on the right people. And I think that is again another thing that you did really well is you just trusted your gut. Like in the people that you were hiring instinctually, you knew who was right and who wasn't right. And I see that a lot of with my women-owned business owners is that they are so good. And I would say we, because myself, like we just know intuitively who's the right fit, who's got it. There's no specific term for that, but it's just it. They have it, you know that they're gonna jive and be a good culture fit and they are the ones who can get after it and do the things without you needing to tell them how to every single bit of the way. They just figure
Yeah.
it out, fit right in, and people gravitate to them
Mhm.
and their energy. And so that has, I think, been part of your success truly, and your membership being so seamless. So love it. So for you, I would love to hear like what's next and what is on your radar. Because I know now that you've got membership cranking like a well-oiled machine,
Mhm.
you have some like exciting stuff that you're working on the horizon here. So I would love for you to share that.
Yeah. So our retention numbers, I mean, have honestly been awesome because I know that when you start a membership, there's a lot of growing pains. But even with that, we've managed to have an average retention rate of around 85%. So being my first year, I'm proud of that.
It's
But being
huge.
the high achiever that I am, I want better.
Of course.
So this year, we've hired a specialist who's a retention coach for memberships so that we can really lock it down, make it really sticky for the user experience, and increase that to above the 90% average for retention. But honestly, I want our membership to be the go to place. So I'm talking, I don't want just 600 members or 1,000. I want to have 5,000 members. I want to have 10,000 members. And I know I'm not ready for those numbers right now. That'd be overwhelming. But I know that we're building that foundation so that when we get there, that it will still be that freedom and that time that I want for myself, which is always exciting. And
Yeah.
then with that, I'm also writing a book. I'm wrapping up my proposal this summer. I'm going to be looking for an editorial agent and then looking for the publishing company. And this was something that you and I had talked about. So you already knew that I wanted to write a book. I had told you, and you're like, I think this is the year for you. So I was like, all right, let's start doing it. So I just want that piece of work to just be another layer of setting me as the expert, just not an influencer or someone that has a good nutrition program. And that's ultimately where I want to be with my company as it
Yeah.
grows and grow myself outside of the job and just show up for those speaking
Yep.
engagements, show up to the podcast and be the leading expert in the hormone and thyroid industry.
Yeah. And it's like that quote, right? Build it and they will come.
Yep.
And that is what is so special and unique about you is you're building it, but you're also the real deal. You're not just one of those influencers. And this is huge. And actually Sarah and I were talking about this the other day. It's like the wild west out there right now. And there are so many people talking about how to lose weight and if you have a hormone issue and what you should be doing and oh my gosh, it's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
But most of the people who are out there as influencers on Instagram talking about this aren't licensed dietitians. They are not credentialed. They don't have the background that you have in this schooling.
Mhm.
They maybe went on a date one or a diet like one year and saw something that happened, or they're using a parasite cleanse, like weird shit, right? And I think that's a big thing for people to really look out for. And Sarah and I talk about this in our industry too, is that there's so many quote unquote money money coaches out there who have never actually been educated or understand the intricate details of financial planning. They're not licensed. They didn't go to school for it. They're not staying up to date, but they've got trending TikToks. And so it's so important to, for those of you who are number one, like the expert, like Priscilla, and who did do that, like there is a lot of weight in that. And just because you may not have the numbers of a follower or influencer, rather, like to stay true to your core expertise and the credentialing that you have is critical, because you now have something that's sustainable, that gets results. And frankly, I think that's part of why you have retention, right? Like you're giving value, but it's sustainable, driven, proven results, where they're seeing that in blood work, right? Which is I think a big differentiator, and it's important to vet that out when you're looking for who are you going to work with. And just because they're online doesn't mean they aren't good, but you have to vet out the credentials and the experience. And so I just wanted to talk about that for a minute, because I think that is definitely part of why you are retaining these members, is that you are in fact really qualified. And so to that end, I think we'd be doing everybody a little bit of a disservice if we don't talk about it, and truly the thing that you do, because you have so many good client success stories. And one of the things that we talk about in business and finance and in health is being your own best advocate. So pushing the door, asking questions, and if you're not getting the answers, asking more questions, and then finding your people. So, can you explain, like, your typical client, the typical woman that you're working with, like what are some symptoms she's feeling, questions she should be asking, and when is it really time to start considering engagement with your membership?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the biggest tall tale sign is, hey, at least you're developing a hormone imbalance, is when eating less just isn't cutting it anymore. Like taking out the chocolate in the evening and you're still not losing the weight. And then you're going extra restrictive and 1,200 calories or one meal a day, however that be, or you're doing regular keto, you're doing it to a T as best as you can, and you're just not seeing it. That's a tall tale sign that, okay, something is off. We need to start looking at a way to eat differently and not less. And then other symptoms are just you're feeling more bloated, like 6 months pregnant after eating, which is not normal. A little bloating, yes, but not to the extent of major bloat. Intense sugar cravings at night, where it just causes you to want to binge, or brain fog, which is the worst when you're, especially an entrepreneur, and you're on your A game, and then you're in a call or a meeting, and it's just like, it's there, it's at the top of my brain, I can't think about it, and then you feel like a total idiot. So that's the worst. And then, of course, being exhausted during the day, feeling like you have to survive on caffeine to get by, or being wired at night, 2 to 4 a.m. Those are all iconic symptoms that at least most of the women that come to work with me have at least 3 of those symptoms. I usually say at least 3 of those, you're qualified. And I even say you don't always have to be on thyroid medication or have a thyroid diagnosis, because the doctors aren't always drawing the appropriate labs. And so as a result, they don't catch it sometimes for up to 10 years until they finally see it in one of the labs they draw. So you're not crazy. You know your body best and when it starts to act out.
Yeah. Yeah. And what lab should they be asking for?
Yes. So for sure, the doctors usually always just draw TSH, which is the thyroid stimulating hormone. But then the ones that really matter is the T4, but ultimately your T3. Those are where all the magic happens. But the conversion of that doesn't really happen except in the gut and the liver, which is a whole story. But if you're inflamed and all that good stuff going on, you're seeing the bloat, that conversion can't happen as a result. And so that's why we're having a low functioning thyroid. And then lastly, your antibodies called TPO. And that's the one, if doctors can draw that, you can find out you have a thyroid condition up to 10 years prior to these other thyroid levels being off, which is crazy. But that tells you if you have the autoimmune disease Hashimoto's.
Yeah, that's huge. And I hope for everyone listening, like you literally paused, wrote those labs down, and you're going to go get them, because it's huge. And then like deal with it in terms of healthy diet and
Mm.
exercise and nutrition, because you don't want to be on medication forever. Like that
No.
is a drag. And so if someone is now finding out, like, oh my gosh, my T3 is so low,
Mm.
and they want to put me on NP thyroid or whatever
Mm.
it is, like now what?
Yeah. So I always say, yeah, definitely go on the medication because I come from a medical background. But the biggest problem is going on medication is you don't feel better. It's not really going to get to the root, right? So that's when you come to me and you
Yeah.
join my membership. And I have a four-phased approach. I have an initial phase where we get to the root, start to heal, take out some inflammatory foods, but it's a mindful approach at the same time. And then we move into the next phase of, okay, let's boost your metabolism, start get things going so that you can see consistent weight loss and not hit that brick wall while still regaining your energy, feeling great. And then we eventually move into the phase 3 approach is food reintroduction, which once your doctor has reduced your meds for the first time, then
Mhm.
you're ready to start reintroducing these foods. And then lastly, once your doctor takes you off your meds and you're at goal weight, is maintenance, which looks different than weight loss. So a brief overview, but it's a very unique approach that is a
Mhm.
hodgepodge of all these things we hear, but yet there's nothing out there. I have yet to find a program like that that helps you not just lose the weight, but also get off thyroid medication at the
Yeah.
same time.
Well, it's consistency, right? It's
Mhm.
building the new lifestyle and routine, and you're working on the root cause. So you have this for a lifetime, you guys. And like and of course I'm going to draw a parallel to financial planning because that's what I do. But it is literally like the financial planning. Like you're learning the habits, the mindset, the basics. So this investment is with you for the rest of your life. It's not a quick fix. It takes time,
Mhm.
but it's healing versus a band-aid. And I think that's what a lot of the time we don't understand. We want the quick fix. We immediately want to be debt free. We immediately want to be wealthy, or we immediately want to feel better. But if you want to heal, it's never an overnight process, right? And so I think that's important to keep in mind too for anybody listening who's like feeling super frustrated, because to get off of medication and to feel better and to have higher energy, it can take like what, at least 6 months to,
Yeah, I would say the
yeah.
short is like, I mean, some have been as easy as 3 months if the doctor just put them on meds. The average for my clients being on like a mild dosage of 75 micrograms and maybe having 35 pounds to lose, usually a year and a half is from
Okay.
start to finish. When the doctor takes them off meds, they're in
Mhm.
maintenance, which honestly is huge. At first, our brains can be like, oh no, it's a year and a half, but how long have you been feeling crummy? How much more
Right.
time are you going to
Mhm.
keep trying to figure it out while
Yeah.
like an investment, right? Like that's why I came to you. I'm
Exactly.
like, I
Yeah.
could sit here and figure it out, but
Right.
I'm never gonna be the expert.
Right. That's right. Yeah, pay for speed, kids.
Yes.
But and to your point, yeah, like a year and a half sounds like a lot, but if you've been feeling like shit for a decade, it's a small
Mhm.
price to pay
Yeah,
to like go through this a year and a half, but then feel better forever. Like
exactly.
that's the thing, and like we are worth the effort and the investment. And I think again, like women just always, I think we're famous sometimes for playing the martyr, and like we're great at saying what's wrong and
Mm.
complaining about it, but like, are you going to take action to change it? Right? Like you've got the power to do it. You gotta take the action. So I appreciate you sharing that because it's huge. And I just know like with so many of our listeners and again, like my peers, like we struggle with this. Like it's a big thing. So you're definitely making a difference. I love it. And so thank you for that. And I will definitely put all of Priscilla's information as well, the link to her membership, her Instagram, right in the show notes too, so that you guys can check her out. And then we will share when you finally are ready to launch your book. That's going to be so much fun. You already have a cookbook, correct?
I do. I
Is
have
that
the
right? Okay.
hmm
Cool. So we'll make sure that that is in there too. And then before we end, my dear, is there any last message that you have for any entrepreneurs out there who are in the service-based industry and they keep questioning themselves of whether or not they can do it and it's worth it? Like, what would your words of wisdom be for them?
just do it because if you don't, someone else will.
That's right. Hell yes. Perfect. Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you. And until next time, my powerhouses, continue to be courageous.
Thanks so much for listening to Becoming PowHERhouse. You can find all of the links to our site and resources in the show notes. Let's connect on Instagram at PowHERhouse Money, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at PowHERhouseMoney.com. Remember, I want to connect with you. I want to hear your thoughts and help you with all the challenges you're having. So engage, send me a DM. And of course, if you're loving this podcast, let us know and go ahead and hit the subscribe button and leave a review.